Hello, and welcome to Weekend Wisdom. I'm Tracy Whitney, the content director for creatingafamily.org. I'm also the podcast host for both of our weekly podcasts, and Weekend Wisdom is our opportunity to engage directly with you, our listeners, and help you find answers to all of your questions about adoption, foster care, and kinship care. We love it when our listeners send us questions that are stumping them. We comb through our archives, we listen to wisdom from our online community, and we sometimes rely a little bit on our own lived experiences and try to craft an answer for you that will strengthen and support your family. If you have a question about anything related to adoption, foster care, or kinship care, we would love to hear from you. So you can send your questions to info@creatingafamily.org to be considered for a future episode. Today's question is one that we hear pretty frequently, and it's a really important one, especially for those who are in long-term relationships, committed partnerships, or marriages. We want you to know right off the bat that if you resonate with this question, you are not alone. And we have a vibrant community over at Facebook that would be super supportive and encouraging for you. You can find our group at facebook.com/groups/creatingafamily, and we'd love to have you over there. So listener M asks, how do you deal with the emotions of not being able to adopt because your partner, husband, spouse, whatever, doesn't share that same desire? And we just want to acknowledge right off the bat that we understand how heartbreaking this can feel. So, M, we're thankful that you wrote in. We hope that you would consider joining us at that Facebook community that I mentioned a couple minutes ago. And we want to give you some practical tools for how to deal with this. We understand that it's heartbreaking and hard because when you are married or in a long-term committed partnership, it's not a decision that you can make alone. Choosing to adopt requires both of you to be 100% on board together, wholeheartedly and in it for the long haul. Anything less and anything different is not fair to you or your spouse or the child, certainly. And that's the priority here that we want to keep in mind. So how do you deal with the emotions of wanting this so badly when your partner doesn't share that desire? We want to give you a few tips to share, and we want to encourage you to kind of take them in, listen, and see where you're at in the process of dealing with these emotions and apply what works for you. So the first thing that we want to emphasize for you is to listen to your partner. And that's not just listen, you hear them talking, it's listen without pushing back or without nagging. Learn how to listen with curiosity. It's natural to want to try and convince them or answer all their doubts or find the answer for all of their questions. But in the early stages of dealing with this hurt, it's really important that you resist that and try to find the energy to pull back a little bit. Listen quietly, listen with curiosity, and try not to pressure them or kind of bring the energy to every conversation that you have about adoption or not adopting. Instead, when you do listen, if you have to ask a question, try and ask like an open-ended, gentle question that would be maybe not something they have to answer right now, but just something for them to think about. For example, can you share with me what worries you most about building our family by adoption? Or you can say, what comes up for you from your previous life experiences when you think about fostering or adopting? And again, your goal isn't to get them to answer your question, nor is your goal to answer the question for them. It's simply to understand where your partner's coming from. And sometimes their hesitancy is rooted in fear, concerns about finances, past experiences, their energy levels, if they can do this, if they have the ability to hang in there for it, especially if you have other children already. Asking these kinds of questions can give them kind of space to develop what they think might be their vision for who your family is and how your family grows. And it might just be that their vision for all of that is different than yours. But when you create a safe space for them to answer those questions honestly or think about those questions and ask themselves the questions honestly, you may discover that there's more depth to what they're thinking or feeling than you even realized. So after you've kind of taught yourself how to listen and leave questions open-ended and kind of out there for them to consider, the second thing is to maintain consistent communication between the two of you. Keep kind of revisiting and having these conversations consistently, again, open-hearted and respectful. But here's the key. You can't do this every day. You can't do this in every conversation. You can't do this when your timetable says, okay, we need to bring the conversation up again. Adoption can't be the only topic in your relationship. Even as much as it may be heavy and weighted on you and your heart, you can't have that agenda, so to speak, all the time. It's going to wear the two of you down. It'll wear you down separately. It'll wear your partner down. It'll wear down the integrity of your unity and your marriage. So instead, you might try and agree on a time frame to revisit the conversation. So kind of ask the open-ended question and then say, can we talk about this again in, 3 months, 6 months? That way you're honoring your own longings for building your family by adoption. You're honoring your questions that you might have about their intent or their hesitancy, but you're also honoring their need for some space and for some breathing room to think, breathing room to not think about it, which might be a rest in their space that they need. And instead, use the time in between those conversations to nurture your relationship between the two of you. You can find other ways to build connection and meaningful interactions between you that are not focused on you getting your dreams. If you find yourself at a point where you've just had to make peace with the fact that adoption is not going to happen, it's really important then that you honor that reality, honor how it feels, and honor the grief that you probably need to deal with in that situation. You deserve to name the feelings that come with that final decision. And then you also deserve help and support to process all of those feelings. So this is where therapy can be really helpful, both individually and then as a unit, as a married couple, to process the emotions, to work through the impact that this has on your future as a couple and the differences that it might create in your relationship, especially if you came into these conversations fully expecting that at some point he might change his mind. And so you need to deal with those feelings. Try to remember that your grief through all of this process is not a sign of weakness. It's not a sign of failure on your part to convince them or to be the advocate for adoption that you thought you could be. It's a natural response to a dream that's not going to come to life. And again, you deserve a safe space and a method for dealing with all of that and processing that grief. In addition to therapy, I would also suggest that you guys consider exploring other things that unite you and bring you together. If you can find maybe some mutual hobbies or other mutual interests, learn a new hobby together, take some trips together if you can, do things together that will turn your attention towards each other and how to nurture and build that relationship. I also suggest if you have this, burning passion to mother or this need to nurture, you can individually find other ways to meet that need. You could mentor a teenager, maybe in your local faith community or in your local school district, maybe a kid that just is really looking for some help. You can do it through a formal organization like a Boy Scouts or a Girl Scouts or Boys and Girls Club. Those kinds of things offering mentoring opportunities. You could also consider volunteering at a local shelter. You could consider teaching Sunday school at your church or other faith community, finding ways to be a dependable, nurturing adult in a young person's life, whether it's a really young child or a teenager. Those things can kind of fill that bill for you. It's important to acknowledge and recognize that your desire to nurture a young person isn't going to disappear just because you and your husband decided adoption isn't right for your family. It just might take some creativity on your part to find other ways to do that. Another aspect of accepting the reality that this adoption won't happen is to make sure that you and your husband are surrounding yourself with safe, stable, healthy relationships that will sustain you, that will encourage you, and that will kind of build you up. An extended network of friends, family, coworkers, any kind of community that you can use to fill the gaps where you may have felt a lack when you were still considering adoption. You may not get to enjoy the daily rhythms of parenting, but you can still be surrounded by very meaningful and fulfilling relationships that will help you give and receive love. And those are so crucial, whether you're parenting or not. Those are crucial things to surround yourself with. Another thing is to consider that the adjustment time that you have in dealing with this change of your agenda or your plan for your family can be an opportunity to, as I said a little bit earlier, focus on some other things that might be fulfilling. In addition to building and nurturing your relationship with your partner and finding common interests with them, you might want to also consider, what are my common interests? What do I love to do? I like to hike. My partner doesn't like to hike. So let's go hiking with a group of friends. And it's okay that you have developed a different interest than he has, as long as you still have interests that you can combine and share together. So the goal is not to ignore the disappointment or ignore his feelings, stuff down your feelings, none of that. The goal is to make sure that how you process this disappointment and how you navigate your relationship doesn't become the whole story of your marriage, because your marriage is so much more than we wanted to adopt and now we're not adopting, or I wanted to adopt and he doesn't want to adopt, and so now what do I do? Your marriage can be so much more than that singular identity. Some couples eventually revisit the conversation and move forward with fostering adopting, and others don't. Either path can mean a fulfilling life for you and your partner. And the important thing is to honor that reality wherever you are right now, and then plan how to move forward. Living in a constant state of conflict or waiting for him to change his mind or waiting for you to feel better about not doing an adoption can be just very wearing on your body and on your brain and on your heart. So if you can honor where you are right now and work together to plan your next steps forward, that's where the healing can begin. So I hope this helps. I know it's painful. I'm sorry that you're in this situation. I hope that you find a path forward that is clear and honest communication between you and your partner, and that if you choose in the end not to adopt, you can find a path forward that feels fulfilling and healing for both of you and for your marriage. Listeners, if this resonated with you in any way and you're kind of feeling like maybe adoption might not be in your future either, I want you to hear this. It is possible to build a beautiful, joy-filled life, even if it doesn't match the plan you once imagined for yourself. Living child-free doesn't mean living empty. It also doesn't mean that you can't find an outlet for the nurturing, loving person that you are. You may have to find new ways to express it between you and your partner and between you and other people in your life. But it also means that you have an opportunity to craft a new path forward for you and your marriage. Your story isn't over, and this doesn't have to be the defining moment of your story. It's just going to unfold differently than you thought or planned, and that too can be a good thing. If you appreciated what you heard today, we would love to hear from you. You can leave a rating or a review anywhere that you are listening to this podcast. And if you don't mind, tell a friend. We'd appreciate it. Thanks so much and have a great day.